Hey there, everybody. It's Wayne D. Thanks for tuning in to the website. You know it, it's WayneD.com. And you're looking at me. Had a good practice session the other day. And on the right here is this swing. It's pretty indicative of what I've been dealing with. Doing everything I can to get depth into the right hip and maintain it up to the top of the swing so that in transition I'm not coming out from under myself. So it's the left leg depth in the end in the forward swing that's going to be key. So let's watch this swing here. So as you can see, I've pretty much got the takeaway down where I don't get the club under me and I can break it up above my right forearm. And you'll see in the beginning here, I am going to get a little depth back into the right. See the right cheek get behind the tush line and my head drop just a fraction. That shows I'm starting off good. Now, after P2, this is where the problem becomes the mobility that I have between the upper and lower. So what I've been trying to do is push both sides of the pelvis back and keep grinding into that right hip so I can have depth at the top of the swing. So watch what happens here. This is where from 2 to 3 that it'll start to lift. So if you look at the top of my head, and you can see it raise. Now watch that little bit of depth that I had. So you can see the right cheek is leaving the line. Now I've got a little bit of air. So where is that motion going? And then if you watch my left leg, you can see it from where the leg is back here. And you can see how forward it moves. So here we've got what I would call unbalanced knee movement. There's my right knee. It's got a little bit of back to it, but look how forward the left knee is. So the twisting action is raising me up. I'm dropping into my left side and lifting. So now the club is going to get more vertical at 3 and then almost cross. If it was a little longer, that would be across the line at 4. And then when I come down, you can see I'm a little bit forward. This is getting better though, but here's the problem. On the approach, comes in a little high. See, I'm just a little bit blocked. So I can't really rotate around into that left leg and straighten it. So the club can watch the shaft from here as it makes its way out in front of me and then exits. Here's the hands on the exit, right between the shoulder and the neck, closer to the neck. So you can just see it's not quite rotational enough in the downswing. And then you can see I finish out of the box a little bit. Now I decided now this is a 3-wood. It's always more difficult the longer the club gets as I try to hit it harder. So I wanted to concentrate on, again, pushing back all the way, especially from 2 to 3. You can see how now I'm maintaining depth. This is a 6-iron, and if I play it at regular speed, let's do that a couple times, you can see it's just not as fast. It's actually painful. I mean, it looks great, doesn't look painful, but it's hard to describe what my hips feel like when I do this. So you can see from 2 to 3 I do a ton better job. You can still see my head a little bit lower than the start. And so this is so rare for me to reach the top and not be above the top of my head line. Still down. And look how nicely this club is going to plane when I maintain that depth. Now, maintaining is not what I'm thinking. I'm grinding this back. I'm driving it back. I'm trying to keep my knee flexed here. But I am pushing this back and pushing the left side back as much as I can. So if we take a look at the difference in what the upper legs look like at the top of the swing, you can see how much more back my left leg is here. So left leg depth obviously corresponds with right leg depth. Then in the downswing, I've still got my butt back on the tush line. I even have a little bit of it behind it, way different. So you can see as the club goes up, it doesn't twist across because my upper body is not twisting with my lower. The club doesn't have to shallow as hard. And you can see I get my left knee out of the way a little quicker than normal. And watch the exit. You can see the club doesn't shoot out to the right. It goes more around, and look at the exit of the hands over the shoulder now. So I was very, very, very pleased to see this swing. So I just have to keep working on this. Like I said, it's very difficult physically for me to do this, but I think if I can withstand the stress, that I can have that swing work the way I've always wanted it to work. So let's go to a face-on view real quick, and I'll show you some of the things I'm doing. A couple of things. One is I've got my stance, obviously. You can see it well open, because no matter what I do, when that left leg, from a square stance, it gets worse. I get more out from under myself. So I've had to go back to the open stance. And the other thing that I've done, I was taking some advice from Jeff Mann, and he encouraged me to try to drive my right hip into internal rotation, which means that it's feeling like it's twisted in this way. So what I did was I turned this foot in, and that twists my femur and my tibia down here, so that when I go back, what I'm trying to do now, I'm trying to feel like that I drive the right side of the pelvis back this way, and at the same time the left side the same thing. In the takeaway, you can see how nicely I've got the club coming up to plane. Everything feels like it's going back in line with my feet. So I've always over twisted and rotated. So when the club feels like it stays neutral for the first foot or so, then I can roll it over and bring it up my forearm. So it almost feels like I start off moving the club out this way and then almost throwing it over my hands. And for power, what I'm going to have to do, if I can get this pelvis to work the way I want it to, because this is fairly restrictive, I'm prioritizing my downswing over more backswing length. So I'm just going to try to wind this up the best I can. And what I'm going to rely on in transition to create some energy as hand torque. So I want a nice hard kick, and that's going to have to be with some speed. So if I can get some snap out of that left leg and get that hard catch, I think I can still hit the ball. I'm getting up to about just over 105 miles an hour with my driver. So if I can do that, I can fly it over 250 and I'll be fine.